Tryout Tuesday, everybody. Millions of people are going to be hitting the roads this holiday season. Attorney David Ayler, a guy who's always sitting in the pole position in the courtroom, joins us right now with some travel do's and don'ts going into the long holiday weekend. Counselor, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Live, in person. Great to have you, of course, in the studio. Tell me a little bit about what people need to know. A lot of people, of course, going 50 miles or more from their homes, more expected this year than last year. Nobody wants to get a ticket and ruin their holiday weekend, so what do you really need to be vigilant of?
Well, you got to watch, obviously, the traffic laws of where you're going to, particularly if you're leaving the state. Things related to cell phone usage is an important one, radar detectors, things like that, because people often travel out of state to see family or friends, not familiar with the traffic laws. Another issue that comes up a lot, people coming into South Carolina, is related to guns, where you're supposed to have your gun, and each state is different on that. So if you're traveling outside of the state, particularly if you're carrying a weapon, you want to make sure that you follow what the laws are in that state. I've seen a lot of people get into some situations that they ultimately didn't mean to be involved in, didn't mean to break the law, but it was still breaking the law just from lack of knowledge.
And I'm sure that's something you can easily Google or find online.
Exactly.
Do you ever feel like, I feel like this way sometimes, Counselor, that like when you go to a different state and you have that license plate on your car that signifies that you're from a different state, that you might be a target for law enforcement? Do you see any truth in that?
Well, I think they pay attention to it, yeah. I think they see those tags, sometimes just wanting to know why the people are there. Obviously, around this time of year, you would understand that a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, from a traffic standpoint, you could see where there may be some more violations simply because you don't understand where you're going or don't know exactly how to get there. So those are issues that obviously come up. And then, of course, getting ticketed because of going too fast or different traffic violations like that. One thing you make sure you don't want to do, and I've had a lot of people come into my office with this issue, is ignore the ticket, because a lot of the states are connected now as far as the DMV. Your license can get suspended here for not paying a ticket in another state.
That's what I wanted to ask you. If you get a summons or a ticket or something like that, you have to actually fly back or drive back to that state and go to a court proceeding there.
Well, believe it or not, I actually myself got one in Georgia outside of Atlanta going to the airport, and I actually had to hire an attorney to handle it because, yeah, exactly that was the case, simply that I had to show up to court. So if you're not going to show up yourself, you need to make sure that you have some sort of legal representation, because it's not just going to go away simply because you don't live in that state.
Absolutely. Make sure you don't speed, obey all those traffic laws. Let's talk about something else, unfortunately, way too popular at this time of year, and that's drinking and driving, getting behind the wheel when you've had too much. You have some very choice advice for people if they choose to do that and how they deal with police once they eventually get caught, if they do.
Well, the first thing is, if you're going to go out, particularly in the holiday season, and you're going to drink, I say really any amount, it's best to just set up a ride, because oftentimes what you have in the holiday settings is people going out that aren't used to maybe going out downtown or out to bars and restaurants and things like that to drink. They go to a party, they may have think they're going to have 2 glasses of wine, end up having 4. Next thing you know, they've been pulled over, and then they're going through a process they've never experienced. So if you're going to drink it all and you don't have a designated driver, particularly in the holiday season, with as sensitive as that is, it's better just to make sure that you don't drive if you in fact have any alcohol. But however, if you are caught and stopped, you need to make sure you understand what your decisions are and what your options are.
Let's go through that process a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't happen to anybody out there right now, but when you are stopped and an officer believes that you've been drinking, tell us about where it goes from there.
Well, first of all, you got to remember that you don't have to tell that officer anything beyond, giving them your license and information and that sort of thing. When they're asking you questions, where are you coming from, how much have you had to drink, that's all going to build up their case. So the more information you provide them, particularly you say you had 2, then you later say 4, those are things that can be used against you negatively, as well as the field sobriety test. Most people don't understand here in South Carolina that you have the right to refuse that. So if you don't want to take the test, you don't have to.
A lot of people say, I'm not going to refuse the test, because then they automatically suspend my license.
Well, and that's related to the breathalyzer, and they will suspend your license if you don't take it. However, you can get an implied consent hearing set up through the administration office of the DMV and get a temporary alcohol license. So there still are other ways to drive beyond the initial suspension of your license for not blowing.
Let's say you unfortunately do get arrested for DUI, then of course that's going to set a whole legal procedure in place, and you really want to have a lawyer on your side.
Yeah, you don't want to go into the courtroom by yourself. It's one thing to handle a traffic ticket. We're talking about a criminal charge. It's going to have a lot of effect on you, both as far as your record and then of course also financially with your insurance, the licensing fees and different things like that that can come from it. So if you get one, trying to go to court and explain it away or talk the officer out of it is not a good move. You need to get an attorney. There's a lot of great attorneys around the area that handle those type of cases, but going in alone is just another bad decision.
They say the average DUI now costs you around $10,000, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and it could be beyond that, and it could cost you your job.
Yeah, or jail time, even worse. So please don't drink when you're behind the wheel. Attorney David Ayler, thank you so much. We hope you have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks for having me. You
Thanks
as well.
so much for being here, and stay with us. More Lowcountry Live coming up in just a moment.